Good morning, everybody. This is Stephanie Henry, and I am here to tell you about my assessment for M3 and how I scaffold this assessment before they take it, and how I implement universal design in this activity. Before I do this, though, I just want to go over a few things. First of all, I wanted to tell you, give you a brief overview of the section on which the students are being assessed so you have a better understanding of what they have learned about and what they are learning about. Next, I wanted to provide a description of the prior knowledge that they should have before we embark on this section. Next, I wanted to provide a description of how the course will provide scaffolding to help the students prepare for this assessment so that they can fully understand the content and learn the content before they are assessed. And finally, I want to describe the assessment and provide evidence of how I used universal design in the assessment. So first of all, an overview of this section. This section is over molecular biology. And this particular section that I'm going to be assessing is on protein synthesis. And this is taught in an introductory bio course. So the prior knowledge that the students should have, they should already have knowledge about the overall structure of DNA. They should also know that DNA codes for proteins. In previous sections, we also learned about the makeup and structure of proteins, that they are made of polypeptide chains of amino acids that are folded in a certain configuration. In my course, I do have a section that's called Introduction to Protein Synthesis. So it sort of introduces the students to this section, gives a brief overview about what the section is about, and then it tells them things that they should already know. Now, if they feel like they didn't learn it as well as they should have, or maybe they need a review, I have links where they can jump back to certain sections in the course and go ahead and review those sections before they proceed. Next, I'm going to talk about scaffolding and how I use scaffolding to help them learn this new content. So this is new content for them. So I have several easier assignments, and they get harder as we go down the list, that they have to do in the section before they complete the assessment. So the first couple of assignments are just guided readings. So they go ahead and read out of their textbook, and then to make sure that they are actually reading, and also to make sure and assess that they are understanding, I just have some really easy questions that they fill in as they go through and read it. And it also helps them make sure that they are picking out key points and understanding them. Then we start out with a pretty easy video. There's a series of biology videos called the Amoeba Sisters, and this one is on protein synthesis. And usually the Amoeba Sister videos give kind of a brief, big picture. They don't go into super detail, which is good because this is kind of the beginning of just students understanding protein synthesis. So that's kind of what I was looking for there. Then I provide some guided practice a little bit in a video on transcription and translation that they kind of follow along and do with me, and then they get a chance to do it on their own, and they do a worksheet. And then of course I would give feedback on that to assess to make sure they're understanding. Then we get a little bit more in depth because we are progressing further along the section, and they watch a video, an in-depth video on transcription and translation. Once they have done all of these things, then that is when they are going to get to the assessment, which I will talk about next. Anytime you use universal design, it is important that students know what learning goals they have. What are they expected to know at the end of this section? And so in that very first introductory page that I have in Canvas, I have my learning goals listed so that they will know at the end what they are being assessed for. And now on to my assessment. So there are several principles of universal design that I tried to incorporate into this assessment. And this is an assessment that I previously had in years past, but I kind of tweaked it a little bit because it didn't really follow universal design. So in the past, I had just had them make a Flipgrid video explaining to me the process of transcription and translation. But I tried to tweak it a little bit to make it follow universal design better. So first of all, it is engaging to students. Students are going to create a tangible project to demonstrate what they know. Instead of in the past, like where I had only that you could create a Flipgrid, I altered it a little bit and I made multiple means of action and expression. So they don't necessarily have to create a video, they can, and it doesn't have to be in Flipgrid. It could be in YouTube. There are various modalities that they could use. They can create a poster presentation, they can create a slideshow, or any other means. I'm fine with however they want to present the information. It just has to be in educational materials so that somebody that doesn't understand about protein synthesis can, and they can demonstrate what they know. In addition, I provided multiple means of representation. There are lots of different options for students to demonstrate their learning instead of just the Flipgrid like I had before. I also made several attempts to minimize barriers. If they didn't know how to use Flipgrid, I tried to provide directions for using Flipgrid. If they didn't know how to use Google Slides, try to provide a little tutorial on how to do that. In addition, attempts were made to eliminate construct irrelevant factors. So because I'm giving the students a choice in how they represent what they've learned, and providing them instructions on how to do it, this should eliminate some of the construct irrelevant factors. So I'm not just assessing, can they read, or do they know how to make a video, or can they use technology, because they can choose the modality that they use to represent what they know. In addition, I do allow them to work in groups. So if you have more of a tech savvy student that's working with somebody that's not maybe so tech savvy, but has a strong understanding of the information, those students can work together. Finally, it's important for students to know how they are going to be graded and what is expected in their assessment. So I created a rubric that gives kind of some instructions on what they're supposed to do. So for example, they need to describe the overall purpose of transcription and translation. Why do our cells go through transcription and translation? And so it's graded on a scale of up to 5 points if I think they've done this. So in order to get the whole 5 points, they have to correctly and accurately describe the purpose of transcription and translation. Next, I want them to describe the location of transcription. And so again, it's on a scale of 5 to 0. 0, they haven't done it at all. 5, they've done it perfectly. So if they accurately and correctly describe the location of transcription, they get the 5 points. The location of translation, again, on a scale, 5 points to 0. The student accurately and correctly describes the location of translation, they get the full points. Then it goes on to talk about 3 types of RNA. They not only list the 3 types, but they describe the functions of RNA. So that is my project on universal design. Thank you so much for listening. Let me know if you have any questions.